All right. Welcome to the Your Legacy podcast. I'm Sarah Nolan and I'm here with Leanne Tristan. She has an amazing story to tell about her impact legacy real estate project at her home in Arizona, where she is the founder of Bridges of Hope Foundation. And she's got some new and exciting things coming up as well. I'll let her tell you all about it. But thank you so much, Leanne, for joining us today. I was so inspired when we actually met at the Broadcaster Authority conference. It's a podcasting conference, and somebody told me about what you were up to, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to meet Leanne right away. And I was just like tracked you down and heard your story, and I was so moved by it, and I just couldn't wait to have you on the show. And I'm honored that you were able to be here with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here with you and to share my story about what I am doing and what we're creating here in Arizona.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about what is the Bridges of Hope Farm Foundation and what inspired you to start it, what it's all about?
It actually started on a Sunday. I was literally just finishing up with church and I walked out my backyard and I just had the most clear, amazing vision when I opened up the gate and I seen all these kiddos and all these adults just running around the farm and all these animals. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I guess I'm starting a farm. And then I'm like, well, it'd be like a sensory farm. And so I walked back inside and I looked at my boyfriend and I said, we're starting a sensory farm. And he goes, and how do you propose we do this?
So did you
And
start
that's
that
kind of
on the
how it
same
goes.
day you had the vision? I mean, did you say that, or how long did it take you from when you had that inspiration to
So I
just
actually started from day one. Like I had that vision and I just ran with it. Like that's when it all was born. That's when it was created. And so basically what we're doing is we're creating a sensory farm for nonverbal autistic kiddos that are severely autistic. So that means they could have any kind of meltdown or anything like that, any behavior, stuff like that, in an instant. And from personal experience with my son, of being nonverbal and severely autistic, I know what it feels like as a parent to be out in public and some loud noise or just the loudness or a car backfiring can overstimulate an autistic child or an adult. And then they kind of like, they don't have the words to explain how that felt to them or how that, scared them or anything. And so it comes out as to everybody else as, oh, that child is being a brat, oh, that child is having a temper tantrum because they're not getting their way, and it's like, no, it's not. And then you get all the stares and the remarks and things like that. And so I want to bring it into play and I want to give them a purpose. And, because there's not a lot of opportunities for autistic adults and to be out in the workforce. Nobody wants to take them on. They don't want to, plainly, bluntly, they don't want to deal with them and their meltdowns. And I think it is just as important for them to have a purpose in life. And if that's something that I can do to create that for them and also help out their families, then by all means, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to do it.
wow, Leanne, that's amazing that you had that kind of that download and that vision coming from, a spiritual experience and that you just went for it. I mean, I can only imagine as a mom the kind of hardship that you must have had to really back kind of fuel a fire behind all of this. Because I hear
Yeah.
about a lot of people with visions, and really good intentions, and not everybody just goes for it. Can you tell a little bit about that? I mean, is that accurate that you had kind of a fire behind you and that you went through some
So, yeah.
hardship that
Yeah, so I've always so my son was actually diagnosed at 2.5.
Hmm.
And ever since then, I knew I had a purpose, and that purpose was to help him thrive into this world. And I always wanted to give back to the autism community, but I just wasn't quite sure. In my background, actually, I used to work with dementia patients. So autism and dementia are pretty close together, actually. It's not far off. And so that's what I actually used to do. I used to work in facilities and I worked private home care until they got to the point where they had to be in a facility. And so I always thought because there's such a lack of group homes that I was like, oh, maybe I'll start a group home because I have that experience. I had the knowledge to run. Like I was a manager for a private one for the longest time and ran the whole entire thing. Um, and so I always was like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But for some reason, I never pulled the trigger on it. Like it was just something I was just like, okay, I want to do this, but then there was never that step forward. There was never the fire, the drive. And so I've always still like marinated on it all these years. My son is now 24. And I'm like, I really want to, do something. Like, what do I want to do? And so, like I said, it was literally a Sunday that I was watching church, and church just really resonated with me that day. And I
Do you
just got
remember
this
what the service
download.
was about? Do you remember that part of it?
Oh gosh, not right offhand, I don't. Well, I mean, so kind of, sort of, I guess it was about giving back, and and really kind of like stepping in and owning your purpose and things like that with church. I'm just metaphorically speaking, that's what I got from it. Basically, was like, we all have a purpose. Now, are we going to just sit on it, or are we going to do something about it? So and that was me. I was just like, "Oh, this, like, really is resonating with me, like, hardcore." And I've been kinda tossing around stuff and things like that, and then, yeah, I walked out. I literally opened up my gate, and, like, the vision was like it was literally a reality, and it was happening that day. Like,
Mhm.
it was like it was open, and the kids were just having fun, and the parents were excited, and they were just messing with the animals and playing in the sensory tables, and it was incredible. And I lit up from that, and I'm like, that's it, that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, this is why God put me on this earth. This is why God saved my life multiple times. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so here we are, we're just running with it.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills as you're telling the story. When was that? How long ago was that?
For like the vision.
That you had that you started a sensory farm.
Oh, okay. So yeah, yeah, yeah. We've been, I want to say, like a month, 2 months into this now,
Are you
roughly.
serious? Are you kidding me? You're only a few
Seriously.
months into it. I could have
Yeah.
sworn you were gonna say 2 years.
No, 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 no. We're only like 2 months
Wow.
into this. We're working really due diligently to be open by October of 2025 of this year.
Okay. All right.
So
And
yeah.
so what have you done? What have you put in place in the last couple months to really get this launched forward?
Yeah. So I originally actually started it out as an LLC.
Mhm.
Um, but we actually made the switch, and we're actually turning it into a nonprofit because of all the things that I want to do and to be able to help these families and these kids and things like that and these adults. After having a really good, solid talk with an attorney and reading this book about nonprofits, I found that I can make more of an impact if I actually turn it into a nonprofit. And so, right now, currently, we just got our articles accepted by the state of Arizona.
Oh
So,
my gosh,
that's where
congratulations.
we're yeah, that's where we're at right now. We're waiting to get the EIN number for that. And then we're just waiting for the state of Arizona to okay our tax exemption. Once that is okayed, we're ready to start taking on donations. But right now, what we're doing is we're just gathering animals and things like that. So right now, we've gotten some chickens, we have 3 pigs. We got a couple goats. We got 6 ducks. And then we've got 5 bunnies so far. And then we just had a tortoise because our little baby tortoise passed away. We're not really sure why or what happened. Again, it was another rescue. We found it out in our yard. And so anyway, he ended up passing away. And this gal, I rushed out to her and I was telling her what we were doing, and she goes, "I would love to donate this tortoise to you." And she's a good sized tortoise. She's not a
Mhm.
little thing either. Like, she's about 4 to 5 years old now. So she's pretty good size. So that's what we got as far as animals going on right now. Once we can start doing donations and taking in and stuff like that, we actually want to add a couple mini donkeys and we want to add a couple mini horses in on that. So that's kind of like where we're at on building things out and just getting the animals and stuff like that. I had a generous neighbor of mine build these really cool tables for sensory stuff. So I can put sand in one of them. So I can get little trucks and stuff to put in there in the sand and stuff like that. And then I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with the other ones yet, but so we've had a lot of generous people like here because I've been talking about what we've been doing. So with being on Instagram and TikTok and now our new Facebook page and stuff like that, I've just really been trying to get the word out for people to know, like, we're going to have something on the west side of Phoenix. So they don't have to travel as far anymore and they can access resources for their kiddos and have a safe place to be.
Right, yeah, I can imagine somebody could find maybe something like this way off in some rural area and have to drive 2 hours to get to it, but to be right outside of a metro or right in a metro area, I mean, what a blessing for these families that just don't have the time or the bandwidth to travel, it makes it
Yeah.
more accessible, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, my son does equine therapy and we spend 3 hours out of our day. It's an hour over. We're there for an hour and then we have to drive an hour back because it's on
Yeah.
the other side of Phoenix. And, not a lot of families have the ability to get to the other side of Phoenix. So I really wanted to make it very accessible for families to be able to come to the farm and things like that and to be able to be a part of it.
And you know what I'm really impressed with, Leanne, as far as proof of concept of this endeavor, is that okay, you started this 2 months ago and you already have donors. You already have people donating animals and donating
Mm.
time, donating supplies and stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
that
yeah, we
really
do.
shows that for anybody listening who maybe you want to be a donor too, this is a solid investment. I mean, this is something you don't have to like wring somebody's arm to try to, you know, get a donation. People want to be a part of this. And that's I mean, I feel that, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on because I want to help you to get the word out with this because families need it so badly. Just being a parent is hard enough without the added challenge of special needs and even sometimes severe special needs that need, all of your time and attention and things like that. We need all the help we can get.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and now that, like, so when Brennan was actually diagnosed, it was like 1 in every, what was it, 251 kids or 50 kids that were being diagnosed, and now today, more than ever, we're like 1 in every 31 kids are being
That's wild.
diagnosed as nonverbal.
That is wild. Wow. I
Yeah,
had no idea that was,
yeah,
I it's interesting. My kids are 12 and 14, and we've been in and out of, we do mostly homeschooling, but we've been in public education a couple times. And the amount of autistic and special needs kids is just alarming
it
compared to
is.
what we remember. And they say, oh, there was, they just weren't diagnosed. But I remember in my classes, like there weren't kids who had such debilitation as what we're seeing
Mhm.
today. It's just,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
we
it
can all
it
relate to that.
yeah, it is getting a lot worse. And back then, they didn't they didn't necessarily know what they were working with. They
Mm,
weren't really like when Temple Grandin was even diagnosed with autism and finally was, told that it's autism. Looking back on her story and listening to her speak and stuff like that, like she would even say, she goes, they didn't know back then what
mm,
I had. All my parents knew was that I was having struggles and they were determined to help me one way or another. And that's what they did. And that's the thing is like that's what we need. We need more help. We need more abilities to get our hands on communication devices. Like these kids shouldn't have to be waiting. Like I pushed for years and years for Brennan to have a communication device, and I just got pushback and no, and the insurance won't cover it. And as a mom with two kiddos, like I didn't have the means to just go out and buy an iPad and throw everything on there because that stuff is expensive. And so it wasn't until 5th grade when Brennan actually got a communication device. But then when he got that communication device, guess what happened? They're like, "Okay, well, you're on your own." And I'm like, "But I don't know what I'm doing. Like, where's our speech therapist? Why is that? Oh, well, he doesn't like it." Well, of course he doesn't like it. It's something new. It's different in the routine. Like you guys know that. So then I got the pushback of nobody wanting to work with him. You know? And so then we had to find our own way to communicate with him. And even still to this day, like the poor kid has a kidney stone, and I didn't know. I had no clue
mm.
because all I knew is that he was randomly vomiting, and that was his way of telling me something was wrong. And I had to keep pushing and pushing the doctors until we got an amazing doctor. And he's like, "We need to do a CT scan." And they found a kidney stone, a 10 millimeter kidney
Oof.
stone.
Wow.
So it's like we need to get devices into their hands when they're little and start helping them. And that's one of the things the farm wants to do. That's part of what we're going to do with the donations is we're going to get communication devices. We're
Mhm,
going to help families have access to the sensory farm. We're going to help families build a community to have a voice, to be heard and not just be shoved to the wayside.
mhm. It's so powerful, Leanne. I mean, I can just feel I can see these families being so helped and so loved and having the healing come from that. This
Yeah.
is a healing experience for people to realize, wow, somebody cares so much that they put all this together. And this is just a resource available.
Mhm.
And you probably heard people refer to animals as like earth angels. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like these
Animals are
these animals
incredible.
that you're attracting to the sensory farm, they have a purpose and
Mhm.
they respond to energy and they can communicate with humans whether they're talking or not. And
Yeah.
I would imagine that that's very healing for somebody who is nonverbal to feel heard and listened to by these animals who just they know, they have that knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is. I've seen such a huge difference in my son. My son had some trauma happen to him where he was attacked by a substitute teacher in high
Oof,
school, the last year of high school. And
so sweet.
that trauma has stayed with him. And because of him being nonverbal and not being able to communicate, we have struggled to get help for him and struggled, like just struggled in general of even having caretakers come in. So now he's got this envision of women that they're violent and they're mean. And in reality, it's not true. And so to try to help explain that to him, it's just really hard. And to try to get help to help him get over it is even harder because they're like, "Oh, he can't talk to us, so we can't help him." And we've even went through like a year's worth of behavioral therapy. And I will tell you what, like, yeah, it made a little bit of a difference, but not much. Not
Mhm.
until I literally started this sensory farm and like started bringing in these animals, and I've just seen this adult do a 180 and start trusting again and
Wow.
start being, now he runs out to me all the time. He doesn't stay in his room anymore. He's running out, "Dad's home," and so excited that his dad's home, whereas before it was he stayed in his room. He did not want anybody mess with him. He didn't want anybody in his room. Like he wanted to be by himself. That was it. And then
And
when we
this has been
got
just the
in,
last couple months.
yeah, yeah, the last couple
Wow.
months, I was spent like I said, we spent a year in behavioral therapy, and in 2 months, I've gotten more out of him with these animals, and
Mm.
he has a sense of purpose. He helps me take care of them. He helps feed them, he collects the eggs, like, he makes sure there's food and water in there, so, yeah, it gives him also a sense of purpose.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I'd like to know a little bit of the logistics because I
Yeah,
know, the people who listen to this show, I can feel your heartstrings and you really feel this and are inspired by this. And I know that there's a lot of people who want to go out and do something similar.
mm,
And that can feel like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? And I actually love, Leanne, when we were talking before, you were telling me about how, you just started on your own property and it's, kind of small, but you have a dream of making this a bigger thing.
yeah.
And so how much acreage do you have to be able to do this on your property?
So, we are on 1.01 acres.
Okay.
And so, yeah, as much as I would love to go out and buy 5 acres of property, that's not in my wheelhouse right now. And so I'm like, I didn't want that to stop me though from creating this. And
Mhm,
so I took a certain section of my backyard and I mapped it out. I already had pins in one area already. And then I just mapped the rest of it out on where I want certain things to go. Because you got to have a starting point somewhere. Like
mhm,
you can't let that hold you back. Like I could let the funding hold me back. I could let not having a place to hold me back. But I'm like, this is bigger than me. This is
mhm,
bigger than me. And I'm serving my people is what I'm doing. And so I'm like, I'm not going to be this huge grand piece of property that has like full on a whole bunch of animals when I first open up, but it's a starting point. And I think that's what you need to take away from it is figure out, okay, what's your vision? And then figure out from there like okay, I have this vision of creating something very magical. And here's the thing, even if you don't have a chunk of property, maybe you know somebody who has a chunk of property and they're willing to maybe give them your vision and let them hear what you have to say. They may be like, you know what, yeah, you can build that on the property, you can start out here, and then when you're able to then move it somewhere else and buy a chunk of property.
I
But
actually
you
have
always
a
have to,
client who's
yeah,
doing that right now.
yeah.
And it's like they're kind of doing this symbiotically and it's a win-win for everybody. I actually know multiple people who are doing that. It's more common than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, there's a will, there's a way. And that's what I always say. If you have a vision and you get out in front of the right people and just start talking about it, you are going to be amazed at how many people are going to be like, I want to help. Like, we're not even open yet. And I already have people asking me, do you need help? Do you need volunteers? Like, I would love to come and volunteer. And I'm like, yes, we're going to need volunteers. I would love to have you as a volunteer. So I've made a spot on our website where if they want more information to be a volunteer, they can, and then they just fill out this little form, and then reach out to them and figure out what days work and what doesn't. Like once we're open and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, like I said, you will start attracting the right people to you when you start talking about your dream. If you don't talk about it, then you're just sitting on a dream,
Mhm.
and you're going to be pondering like, how do I do this, how do I do this? Well, open your mouth, like speak to the world, because there's people out there ready to help you. And this is coming from somebody who likes to do everything herself. Okay, I will tell you, I've struggled with this myself, because I'm like, I'm going to do this all myself, I don't need anybody's help. I've even told my boyfriend the same thing. I'm like, I don't need your help, I'm just telling you what I'm doing, and you can just watch it grow.
Yeah.
But I've also had to step back and realize it's not about me, it's about the community. And when you bring your community in, that's when it gets even bigger and there you've got even more support and more help with it.
I love that advice, Leanne. And it really, once you make this a collaborative effort, it exponentially grows the potential for what's
Mhm.
possible. And I love
Yeah.
that you're already doing that. And whatever. So for whoever's listening, if you have your own version of a dream like this, just think about whatever vision you have in your mind right now. Imagine that times 10 or times 100 when you start involving the community and when you start, I mean, what I like to do is help people to not just involve community members, but even look at the municipality, the county or the town and say, what county or towns are actually looking for something like this? Like
Yeah.
what locations have something like this as a priority in their infrastructure plan, what they see over the next 10, 20 years, and see if you can partner with them and get access to all kinds of grants
Mhm.
and tax credits and funding and stuff. Because there are sometimes those types of factors can make the difference in just the scope that you're able to work in.
Yeah, and also find different foundations
Mhm.
that are in the same category as far as like, what you're wanting to niche down into. Like it doesn't have to be like if you're wanting to create a sensory farm, it doesn't mean you have to go out and find a sensory farm to partner with, but go into like Autism Speaks, like, things like that. And a lot of those places are wanting to partner with you as well and help spread the word. And not only that, because they're already a foundation and stuff like that and a nonprofit, a lot of times they have some kind of program underneath their belt where they can actually help you get grants. Because I do know that when you first become a nonprofit, a lot of places won't give you a grant because they're not sure how long you're going to last. They're not sure how long you're going to have that fire. But if you have that fire and that drive and that passion, there's always a way to do it by just partnering with somebody else, and they can also help you as well.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. And this is the kind of thing too where we can, if people have questions about, what types of organizations or where to find these resources, I'm happy to help with that. Leanne, I would imagine
Yeah.
that you could answer some questions too because you've gone through this and you're
Yeah.
going through it. So there are going to be people who are kind of steps behind you. So, like she said, if there's a will, there's a way. And this, I believe, is a sign for whoever's watching it. At any moment that you're watching it, this is your sign that this is the time to take that first step or take that next step. Whatever has been maybe you've been procrastinating on, this is the time to start really putting the next pieces in motion. Uh,
Yeah.
so I want to tap into a little bit, Leanne, into the kind of spiritual aspect behind this because oh, you know, we come from the perspective that there's energy behind this,
Oh, yeah.
and when we connect with the history and when we connect with, okay, what are the energetic forces that are collaborating with me, that are working in synergistically in harmony with me to really make this bigger than myself and to really fulfill the potential of this dream. So we look into what is my family history because our ancestors are on board. Our
Mhm.
ancestors are guiding us and helping us with these processes. And what is the history of the land?
Yeah.
So I know we talked previously about this a little bit. Were you able to find some information about some of your family history related to agriculture or helping or healing and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I did do a little bit of digging. I really wish I would have like connected with my grandma more honestly before she ended up passing. I probably would
Yeah.
have got way more information. But what a little bit that I did, I was talking to my aunt and stuff like that, and she was telling me that I'm not sure exactly where in the family history back in the day, but I guess one of our family members actually had like a plantation.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to dig a little bit further into that.
Do you have any idea what they were doing? What their
I
production was?
don't. I don't even know who it was or anything like that. So, which now like which is kind of interesting because now you've got me even more interested. And so I actually I'm going to start doing a little bit more digging on ancestry and stuff like that with it. But, my grandpa used to actually have a farm. So I grew up on a farm and
Mhm.
I just remember just finding it so peaceful. I didn't like doing the work on there, of course, but I also did it too because that built character and it also helped with build responsibility and things like that. And it's really made me into the person who I am today. And I thank my grandpa every day for that, like making me get up at 5 a.m. in the morning and go do the farm chores and, work until it was hot. And then we got a little bit of a break and then we were back at it again in the evening time. So it was a really fun experience. I mean, I'd have to say the only thing about farming that I didn't like is, my grandpa raised everything to be slaughtered, to be eaten. And I was like, I made friends with that cow now. Like, that's my buddy, like, or the pigs or something. And so for me, I was like, yeah, that aspect of it, I can't. I'm such an animal lover and stuff like that. I have a really hard time like saying no to animals. So yeah, so I kind of grew up there. I'd spend my summers with my grandparents and stuff like that and learning farming and what it took and hearing my grandma talk about that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really kind of interesting to hear like what little bit I was able to dig up. I mean, it was kind of about the extent of it because my aunt's like, "Well, I don't know this and I don't know that." And I'm like, "Well, where are my grandma's notes? I know grandma was doing stuff here and there." So, and I mean, I've done a little bit digging. I've done like the ancestry.com and then I've also did there was another one that I did, genetics,
Mhm.
which was really cool. That really like pinpointed, like I found out it was like 43.90% German. And I was like,
Really?
oh, interesting. And then of course everybody's like, I'm not surprised by that. And I'm like, I don't know if I should take offense to that or be like, why, thank you. So yeah, so it was kind of interesting because I did end up doing that and then it does kind of go back like 7 generations. So I want to kind of dig into that a little bit more because they do give you the ability to like, obviously you got to pay a little bit more, but now that I know I'm going to, so I can dig back further and be connected with some of the ancestors and stuff like that and kind of learn a little bit more about them, because I am now intrigued. I'm like, really? A plantation? What were they doing? What was on there? What was happening?
Oh, yeah, there's so many questions, and once you start looking into and getting some of that information, then it's almost like you just there's whole new levels of understanding that you
Oh,
can
yeah.
gather from that. And what I think is really fascinating is once you see, okay, my ancestors 7 generations ago have left this impact on the world. What is my impact for the next 7 generations? Where my great, 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 great grandchildren find out about me and they're like, oh my gosh, my grandma Leanne, she just, and then you can, I don't know what everybody's spiritual beliefs are, but I believe, once we're gone from this planet in the physical realm, we have an energetic influence that can be passed on and we can tap into those things and tune into them. And you may have a grandchild or a niece or nephew someday who's tuning into your wisdom of what you created on Bridges of Hope Farm.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really
I agree
powerful.
100%. Yeah.
And then you had found out a little bit about the history of your land. I mean, there's some deeper reason to why you were sent, you could say, to the land that you're on now, or where you might be guided to in your next steps. Did you get any insights on that since we talked last?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I it's kind of interesting about me. So we were looking for property because my boyfriend is a truck driver. And so originally that was the whole reason for property, is because he wanted property to bring his truck to and stuff like that. Whereas I was like, I need to be 30 minutes away from whatever I need.
Mhm.
I don't want to be out in the boonies. I need to be like happy medium. And so that's kind of what started our journey. And then, of course, too, when we came across this place, when we found it and came across it, the other thing that was very intriguing, because we still always wanted to give our son a sense of independence. And so it also had a casita on it. And so those were really kind of our main points of the reason why, like what drew us to this. Now, there could have been an underlining more in-depth reason why without me realizing it, which I'm thinking there is now after our conversation and stuff, and starting the sensory farm and things like that. And I know, talking to my son and talking to my aunt and stuff like that about the property, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I really necessarily get, because from what I've heard is it was basically like a big lake at some point in time.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of what I've gotten from my neighbors who are around here and knew the history of it and stuff like that. I mean, there wasn't really, I didn't catch anything like real big or anything like that, like of it being an Indian reservation or, anything like that. So, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. It was a lake at some point. So I'm sure some really amazing things have happened here and probably some really sad things as well. But again, it does lead back to, like you said, there's always energy in everywhere. And that's why I'm so connected with nature and love to go on nature walks, is because you feel that energy. It doesn't, you don't know what it really is, but you just feel it inside you.
Right, right.
And so, and you feel more grounded and stuff like that. And I can definitely say, like, for me, I don't necessarily feel that on my property. However, my aunt and my son feel that on the property. They
Interesting.
feel the energy and even tell me, they're like, I hear drums every now and then.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like,
That's
drums? And they're like, yeah, in the dead of night, I could be in my bedroom or my aunt in my guest bedroom. And she's like, yeah, I hear drums. I'm like, are you sure it's not one of the neighbors? Just, and they're like, this is like 3 in the morning. It's like drums. It's like somebody's drumming, like a tribal drum. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, interesting. Okay. So, maybe there was a tribe on this land at some point in time, but I've never really got that confirmation either from anybody around. And I haven't really, like, I'm still digging into it and stuff like that, because now you just have me really intrigued with all of this. And so, I'm still doing a little bit of digging and stuff, and to really trying to figure out, like, okay, what was this land before anybody started, putting houses and properties, lining them
Yeah.
off and stuff like that. Because
Well,
I do agree with you.
I would say those experiences of hearing the drumming is confirmation that there is something to look into. And
Mhm.
given that it used to be a lake, that could have been like a sacred site, you know?
Yeah.
And now you're doing this like very healing, impactful work there and bringing new life to where,
Right.
water is, the basis of life here on earth. And so now you're bringing a new form of life into the space. So
Yeah.
that's really powerful. So I'd love to hear, let's do
Yeah.
an update sometime down the road and hear more about what's been going on.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely have to for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm so excited for you, Leanne, and I'm really excited to continue following you and continue keeping in touch and hearing how all of this is unfolding. And I'm really excited for all the families that get involved with this, all the other donors and investors who decide to, participate. And how can people get a hold of you and find out more information, whether they want to participate, as a community member or as a donor or however they can do that? What's their next step?
Yeah, so they can reach out to me on social if they would like to. We are on Instagram, we are on TikTok. We do actually have a Facebook business page as well. And so it's Bridges of Hope Farm Foundation, or you'll find us under Bridges of Hope Farm, because sometimes it's too long for everybody. And then we also do have a website as well, which is up and going, and it talks a lot about what we're doing, how they can help, and things like that. And so that is bridgesofhopefarm.com.
bridgesofhopefarm.com.
Yeah.
Awesome. And they can just look that up under all the social stuff and find you. And
Yeah.
okay, one more thing is
Yeah.
I heard that you're starting your own podcast. So can you tell us about that?
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. So after meeting you and going to the podcasting conference that we went to there in Vegas, it was very inspiring to me to sit and listen to everybody. And so I was like, I just have this passion to be this voice and to really, really get more people out there to understand what families like mine go through and others go through of having a child with that is nonverbal. And so we are actually wanting to bring that in light and just kind of open and educate everybody that, it's there is a different side to autism as well. Like there's a wide way range of autism, but I think the one that gets shadowed the most is the families who have nonverbal, severely autistic kiddos, and I want to bring a voice to their world, and I want to shine a light on them and show them that they are not forgotten, and just help everybody understand the day-to-day struggles for families like ours.
Beautiful. I'm excited to see that when it comes forward and
Yeah.
for people watching, make sure you check that out. What's the title of the podcast?
The title to our podcast is going to be The Other Side of Autism: Life Without Words.
Awesome. This is really exciting, Leanne. I'm your one of your biggest fans
Oh,
as
thank
the
you.
foundation of all of this happening, and really excited for what's coming forward. Please reach out to her, or if for whatever reason you can't figure out her information, reach out to me and I'll connect you guys. She's doing some really powerful things, and it's very exciting, and it's going to help a lot of families.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. I'm really super excited and I'm glad we were able to connect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is when people talk about legacy, this is what we mean when we say legacy. I mean, Leanne is creating something truly bigger than herself, something that is going to impact several generations down the road. And it's not just about monetary wealth. This is about, the whole person being enriched and uplifted, and generations being impacted. So if you're thinking about your own legacy and what you could possibly create in your lifetime to impact the next generations, Leanne is such a great example of that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, we will talk to you all next time, and we'll connect with you soon.
Thanks.